Director, Associate Professor Dr. Azizah Maknoon, to our Dean, Prof. Shukran, Deputy Dean, Dr. Haslina, and all my fellow colleagues, all respected attendees, thank you for coming. So today, inshallah, we're going to have this roundtable discussion on Islamization of knowledge policy. This roundtable discussion on Islamization of knowledge policy is dedicated to deliberate on the policy of Islamization of knowledge as outlined in the official document published by the university, namely the IUM policies and guidelines on Islamization. Inshallah, from this program, we hope that we will gain these objectives, which are to explain the Islamization policy to the lecturers and students of the Kuliah, especially to the new academics and postgraduate students, to learn from the experienced speaker with regards to the Islamization projects, to encourage academics and students to espouse the Islamization framework in their intellectual activities. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our respected Dean to give an opening remark for the program.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Amin. Amma ba'd. Thank you very much, Dr. Zaid, for initiating and today conducting this roundtable discussion on Islamization of knowledge policy. Alhamdulillah, also we have many attendees, participants. Inshallah, we will have a fruitful learning process or session this morning from our beloved Professor Dr. Azizah Maknoon. Thank you, Dr. Azizah Maknoon, for agreeing to lead the discussion and share your knowledge and experience with your juniors and your students here, alhamdulillah. And to all of you, academic members and also students, thank you for coming, and hope more will come, and hope you will be consistent in attending this session, either as participants or also as resource persons as well. I believe all of you are able Islamizers of knowledge, or Islamizers in that sense, right? If we can recall, I mean, recently there was an announcement about the ranking of IUM's performance in serving as higher education provider for theology, divinity, and religious studies. Right, we stand number 19th, right, from thousands of higher education provider in the area. Right, we have moved from, I think, 28th position to 19th. Right, and when you go to ChatGPT, right, you ask ChatGPT what is which higher education institutions provide the best sociology program in the Islamic perspective, for example, and ChatGPT will give some criteria, and then immediately it will rank IIUM as the best provider. I think Dr. Sharifah is not here. When I asked ChatGPT of which university provide best Usuluddin program or theology program, it ranked University of Al-Azhar, and second is IIUM. Right? And then when we check which university provide the best program for psychology, it comes to IIUM. When I check communication, it comes to IIUM. Political science also comes to IUM. I mean, we always stand the first. But what does this mean? What does this mean? The big data, I mean, ChatGPT deals with big data or analyzes big data. The big data shows that, you know, in the literature, in web, right, there are many claims or many reports that we are doing Islamization, or at least we are approaching knowledge from Islamic perspective. Now, it is our duty here to make sure that we are really doing that. It is not only on paper, it is not only something that we claim that we are doing, but something that we are really doing here, right? So what we are doing Islamization. But how are we doing is something that we have to ponder, that we have to really check whether we are doing it right. Whether we are doing it the way expected and inspired by our founding father and also scholars who have conceptualized the concept of Islamization. Alhamdulillah, in this kuliah we have been consistent. I think we have been consistent istiqamah in at least saying and telling that we are on this Islamization agenda, and we want others to help us in this Islamization agenda. And whenever we recruit people to join us as academic members, we make sure that they are also able to do Islamization. And we will keep on training them on how to do Islamization. And I believe this platform, roundtable discussion plus book series discussion, will become important enabler to our academics, to our postgraduates, even undergraduates, to understand what Islamization is, what are the domains, what are the properties of Islamization. In our recent curriculum review, we make sure that Islamization is addressed in all courses. And what do we focus on? We focus on the 4 properties of knowledge. When we want to talk about the concept of house, we need to know the property, the component of house. And we want to do Islamization, we need to know also the component of Islamization. And we are adopting EOD approach, EOD epistemology, ontology, zoology, and also teleology. And in my view, it is not only human sciences which need to be Islamicized, but Islamic studies also need to be Islamicized, because we are not only focusing on the epistemology, ontology, but also on the zoology as well as on the teleology, which are on the values as well as on the purposes. We want our Islamic studies principles to serve purposes, to bring about well-being, sejahtera on this world as well as in the hereafter. Now that is something that we sometimes take for granted. We focus on the process to acquire knowledge, the methodology, We focus on the subject matter without linking it to the values, So we are in IUM talking about values-driven, not value-driven, but values-driven. I mean, that is the ideology that we have to always link to Islam, And then we want also our students, our academics to relate the knowledge that they acquire, the knowledge that they talk about, to the purposes, to the goals, to the application. So what are the purposes of principles in hadith? What are the purposes of teachings in Quran if they are not serving any purposes but only to be memorized? So that is not Islamic. So our Huffaz, they know many concepts in the Quran, but they do not act them out. So that is not Islamic. So our rules in IUM is to bring knowledge to its application. We want knowledge worker to appreciate or to value knowledge. Then only we can say that we are doing Islamization here. So befitting the idea that the public know, befitting the idea that ChatGPT or QS or whatever ranking is telling the world. So we do not only here glorifying the status and glorifying the rank without substantiating what we are claiming here. So thank you very much, Dr. Zaid. So for this and also for the book discussion series, in the recent meeting with MKH Library, we have agreed to name your book discussion series as Muhammad Kamal Hassan Book Discussion Series. So that we not only uphold but continue in steadfast manner what Professor Kamal has been expecting from us. So wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Sukan, for such an enlightening opening remark. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our respected guest, Prof. Azizan, to deliver his speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Special Dean of the AHAS KHS, Professor Shukran Abdul Rahman, Deputy Dean Dr. Hasbina, lecturers, students, and of course Dr. Zaid, the Islamization coordinator for our kuliah. Alhamdulillah. After listening to our Dean's speech, I feel scared now. Of course, this is a serious matter, but I hope you will not make it too serious in the discussion, so that we will be able to explore more based on the exchange of ideas and friendly advice. Equally, I am not here as a speaker alone, but I always see myself as a learning speaker to my students. I say, I'm the learning teacher and you are teaching students. Because in one way or another, they are teaching us. We read the assignment, we get knowledge, and so on. So this is how perhaps the concept of knowledge again from all sources using many ways. And in fact, yesterday I was discussing with my students, maybe in future what we call assessment could be in totally different way with all this GPT and so on. You cannot make decision, for example, that create a kind of dilemma, confusion among the users of technologies. Okay, so the task that has been given to me is a roundtable discussion on Islamization of knowledge policy. So I really don't know what does it mean by roundtable. I should be there then. The table is also very round. So, but anyway, we'll just try to see how it can benefit us today. But here maybe a little bit of query about the title, roundtable discussion. So I will interpret it my way, whatever I interpret, and I will go by that way. So you hope will meet your expectation as well. Islamization of knowledge policy, we don't have Islamization of knowledge policy. We have Islamization policy. But Islamization policy also is not the term that is used right from the very beginning. The proper title of the policy is IIM Policies and Guidelines on Islamization. So I will show you. But inside there, of course, we have Islamization for academic purposes and Islamization for non-academic purposes, which include also Islamization of sect in particular. So maybe since this is a round table, you don't mind I correct a bit on this, so that we learn from the very beginning. I would assume that those who are new and even those who are opposite of new is what? Old, seniors. So I hope this can be corrected as much as I have corrected also last time when Center for Islamization was established. Many people have referred to this as Center of Islamization. I said Center of Islamization is the university as a whole, but this one is Center for Islamization, the center that supports Islamization. So many different connotations or implications when we use certain terms. Right. So having said that, let's look at what we can do. I hope I will be guided by the objectives given to me. Number one is to explain the Islamization policy. So we use the Islamization policy only to say in short. Although the name is long, but we simply refer to it as Islamization policy. Just like, for example, memorandum and articles of association are very long, but we simply refer to it as IIM Constitution. This is the one. So I always like this one, although there is another version, bigger one, but this one can be simply put in the pocket. So you will always be guided by the Constitution very well.
Yeah,
mobile sometimes also you have to. But anyway, so inshallah, to explain is okay, but I think it's more of, as I said, exchange of views and see whether some of the aspects about the policy can still be understood in different ways, for example. So I will not read this because everyone is able to read, so let us now continue with this. We recite Surah Al-Fatiha to remember our predecessors who have contributed in one way or another to Islamization in this university. Al-Fatiha. I was made to understand some of us are new, but do you know who are they? By name? The first one? Okay, from here, Abdul Hamid Al-Sulaiman. The middle one? Professor Muhammad Abdul Rahul, also passed away. And also, of course, this one, he passed away recently, 23rd of February. Right, so since we are going to talk about Islamization, maybe it is good to have a little bit of exercise in the beginning, just to, because by simply looking at your faces, I cannot estimate what is your awareness about Islamization policy at the university. So maybe we can do a little bit of exercise. You can take your phone, or I call this shoot this and then try. Not very simple. You don't have to even give your name. Don't worry. So even if you don't know, so I will show the result maybe at the end of this. I can simply go to the result now, but I think we'll see it later. Yeah. So you have taken this, or we'll move next to the next one. Just to see how much you are aware of this one. All right. So if everybody has, there are, I think, 5 or 6 questions. Very simple questions. Right. Let us move on so that we'll save time. Before that, brother, until what time? Now it's 9:32. Presentation, hello? Oh, too long. Okay, I will try to make it shorter, inshallah. Then we will have more discussion. Right. Now, since we are talking about Islamization, and here in this university, maybe it is good also to look at a bit of history. Three milestones or three important what I call these events or hallmarks on this. Number one is the establishment of the university itself, and the documents which are important to me is, number one is the IIM Constitution, the one that I mentioned just now, the main guiding document, official document. And then number two is the IUM strategic plan. Of course, it did not take place right after it was established. It was developed later. And then in 1990, establishment of our kuliah marks another milestone in the development of the university. And with that, we had also IEM strategy plan number 2. And we also formulated or reformulated or reworded the vision and missions of the kuliah into 2006. When I was the dean at that time, so we called all top management to have 2 or 3 days retreat in Di Palma over there. All came, the directors and so on, with the exception of the rector who was abroad. So Professor Kamal was there and others. So we deliberated, and as a result, we had this missions of the university, of the kuliah, that is double I, double R. I, number 1 is integration, I, number 2 is Islamization, R is, the first R is relevantization, and another R is research and innovation in both human science and English. Because as we are going through, there are many areas which are grey, which require innovation and which require research, either in human science or in hierarchy or review knowledge. So these are some of what you can explore later and it will be more. Now, from the constitution, particularly the later part, because the original one did not have a very clear what you call on this, but later we were asked to also have this, and then Professor Kamal particularly has come up with this short form of the missions of the university: integration, internationalization, and then Islamization. This is where we are talking about. So if you want to know the location of the issue that we are talking about, this is the one. So I hope you can set your mind that we are not talking about the entire university. We are focusing on only one mission of the university. Now, the other side, that was my way of always, I look from this perspective when I explain Islamization. Particularly for Muslims. Of course, I talk also to the non-Muslims. But the non-Muslims, they have to understand it in the same way, but consider that to be what is implemented in the IUM. As much as we have learned Marxism. Marxism in sociology without being Marxist, so they can also know about Islamization without being Muslim. So the non-Muslim in this university, staff or students, they have to understand. Now, the very basic logic that I have used is that with the revelation of Islam, the consequences is that Islamization takes place. Right? So this therefore took place right from the very beginning. So Islamization is not something that we create now, but in essence, in practice, it has been there right when Islam was revealed, and then the spread of Islam, the Da'wah, and so on. That is an act and initiative of Islamization. So if someone has raised the issue of why we talk Islamization, there will be what you call it, other people will be allergic to it and so on. It is not a question of whether we are creating something new. It has been there for many decades, but in essence, but now we are making it more prominent in order to create more impact on what we are supposed to do actually, not something that we have to do new thing, but old thing in the new form, including the coinage of the term. Yeah? So this is where we are. Then in 2012, the university, I must but I must also mention appreciation to number one, director at that time, Datuk Seri Zaliha, Professor Kamal. They were all instrumental in the establishment of one special center with specific purpose to facilitate and support the process of Islamization in the university. Unfortunately, I have been also forced to be the first director. I thought only for 1 year, but it ended up until I resigned for 4 years. So, but anyway, that was the history. But when I was there, and Professor Kamal was our advisor. So he most of the time also stayed in the office. This is my office, that is his office. So I wanted to give my office to him because his office did not have, or even now, the same office does not have toilet and so on. But he certainly refused. And I said, Prof, you use whatever facilities here, including the washroom and so on. But Professor Kamal, knowing Professor Kamal, he said, okay, but he only used when I was not there. So that is Professor Kamal. An example and also a model for us to follow in all sense. So I learned a lot also by being closer to him, even physically. So he was there in the office. So blessing from Allah comes in many forms, including by placing a respected person like him to be with us. So alhamdulillah. So when I was there and he was the advisor, the university happened to develop at that time the third strategic plan. I think from 2013 to 2020. Okay. So it was during that time that we deliberated and so on, we managed to push for this kind of thing, putting Islamization as a foundation. So very clear, because all this while, all the businesses that we have been doing about students, about academic, about teaching and so on, they are pillars, yes, pillars of this. But underlying the pillars is Islamization. So we want to make it very expressed and very very dominant in the entire university enterprise. So this is what took place. So as a center responsible for Islamization, every year we are asked to identify what are the few projects that we want to develop and make it happen, the projects which are high impact projects. Yeah? High impact projects means not only it can be embraced by many, but also it will stay there for a long time. Like policy. The policy, it was developed in 2013, but it will continue to be with the university as an official document until whatever time that we do know in the future. So in 2013, there were 4 major projects, what we call Islamization key result area. Islamization key result area. So one of which is to for the center to come up with a policy. So you could see here, this policy was the product of our key result area of 2013. And another one is First World Congress on Islamization and Integration, 2013 also, which continues to be every 3 years now. And Bustad Al-Aini, it was the project meant for certificate in Islamic studies for retirees. Because we look at IIUM, we had kindergarten, we had Montessori, we had primary school, secondary school, university. But when we leave university, we don't have something that will lead us to until we die. So we created this, alhamdulillah, until now. It is operating not here but in Putrajaya. Yeah? So every year university will confer certificates to them during convocation. Yeah? So this is the high impact projects meant for addressing some issues in society that we have done. So for the textbook project. So there is where this here is where we are talking about the policy that we are talking. So at least you are aware of the historical background of this. So this is how it looks like, and you can get it free from centuries. And even if you type Islamization policy of IUM or this 900. Okay, so let us now look at what are the contents of this policy, the contents. But I will be very brief because, not to say very brief, but brief, because if I were to talk about this in detail the whole day, then perhaps until Jum'ah or even after that. So I will just give some aspect and everyone will be able to read later. Right. So the proper title of policy is IUM Policies and Guidelines on Islamization. So if there is a quiz, you can ask all your students also. Number one, do you know that there is Islamization policy? Yes or no? Number two, what is the title or name of the title? Kalau tak betul, tak bagi mark. Kalau betul, bagi mark. Right. So let us look at the background and justification for Islamization policy. This one I will just go very fast because this is in the constitution of the university. In fact, part of the constitution we have included in the policy as a background, so that we will see the link between constitution and also policy. But you must remember the word policy is broad. You cannot expect things to be very detailed. So I believe during the exchange of ideas after this, you may ask how to do this, how to do this. But I'm only talking about policy. We can of course talk about operational part of that, but I'm focusing more on policy. Okay, the background. Background number one. As I said, for this university, Islam is the reason for its existence. Reason that. I think this is the popular term that Professor Kamal always say. And then the philosophy of knowledge and education in IUM is based on the worldview, epistemology, principles, and value of Islam. Islamization is one of the missions of the IUM. And IUM Strategic Plan 2013-2020, in IUM Strategic Plan 2013 and 2020, Islamization is declared as the foundation of the university. So with all this, then it is justified for us to talk about Islamization. I'm yet to talk about other things because I do not want to mix up with all these things. For example, some have questioned why we must engage with Islamization. So I think if you talk even professionally alone, that should not be the question. Because as in other institutions and companies and so on, when you decide to join that company, you are bound to be tied by whatever the company has asked, including the charter of the company and also the mission, vision, and so on. And we are in this university. Therefore, whether we like it or we don't like it, we have to make ourselves to like it. Because this is where we are working. It's not fair. You are working here, for example, for only certain things, but you do not want to also take other things. So I think it's a question of professionally also logical and justified. Not only on the basis of this. Okay, and in the constitution, I think this one you can read later because because this is only the philosophy of the university, where knowledge, education, and how we need to do it. I'm sorry, now I think we have listed in 7 or something like this, in data development, but being, I belong to the old school, so I use the whole little. So easy for me to remember these 5 statements, statement about the philosophy of education and knowledge. So, ibadah, khalifah, amanah, so all this here. Yeah? So I think therefore it is not place to focus. And this is also the vision. Maybe the vision we need to refresh and also strengthen, that we aim at becoming leading international center of educational excellence, which seeks to restore the dynamic and progressive role of the Muslim Ummah in all branches of knowledge. And I'm happy to listen to Prof. Shukran just now reporting to us that empirically, when we consulted a few sources that can give us data, it looks like that the world recognizes us directly or indirectly. And because, as we all know, if we do it sincerely and become culture, so even without asking people to appreciate us, they will have to appreciate us based on what we have been doing. So we don't have to do more other than being sincere, being more committed, and do more. Because eventually, the result will be known anyway by people. So don't worry about whether we are assessed or not assessed based on their criteria, but we are clear about our criteria. That is what is most important. So as far as the mission is concerned, I think it's still outstanding there, Islamization. So this is where we are about. Now for 30 years, we had operated the university without specific policy. So that is why the first thing that came to our mind when I became the director was, then we thought, then people talk about Islamization, some are not clear, some are clear, some have their own interpretation. So time has come for us after 30 years to come up with a more organized and systematic deliberation and articulation of the Islamization mission. So that was why we took that and made it as a key result area. So we, in addition to that, we also have strategic plan, number 1, number 2, and number 3, as we said. All this we need to read together. I've always had this here. Number 1, number 2. Number 3 becomes smaller. But that is quite normal when we are moving. Just like in computer also, previously we had a very big floppy disk, and it is smaller, and then thumb drive, and then now in cloud, after cloud. So I used to tell my students, if what Islam teaches last time without technology, and our Ustaz say that later in Akhirah you will get your kitab al-Sahih at the right or hand, you cannot imagine, because if it is to be in the books, so many. But now even with human knowledge, the whole world can be written without any intro. So that should be a kind of sign to prove that what Al-Quran says is true, truthful. That is the way how Allah allow us to, provided we become the observant person. Okay, and then I think I already mentioned about this. This is the original one. I think you need to know also how it looks like, but very colorful, very so on. But later, when we achieved, when we were conferred the status, real status. Not this is the aim, Premier Global Islamic University. We want to achieve that, but later we got it, and therefore we have this Premier International Islamic Research University, because we did not compete with others in terms of normal. I think this one UNESCO or what? ISIS. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. So meaning that up to a certain extent we can feel consoled also with what we have achieved, despite the fact that we have not always feel satisfied. It is good not to feel satisfied actually, so that we can struggle more and more. Yeah? To achieve. Right, so this one, the one that I mentioned, I don't have to highlight it again. Now, let us look at the contents of the policies. Yeah? Contents of the policies and guidelines. Two words, policy and guideline. Which one is broader, which one is what you call narrower? Yeah. So we need to, I think, list down the terms which are involved in the operation and implementation of this. We have philosophy, we have mission, we have vision, we have policy, we have what you call this guidelines, and then we have rules and regulations, we have also SOP. So we have to rank this so that we know when we are talking about something, are we talking at what level? Because sometimes we mix up. When we talk about philosophy, which is supposed to be embracing or all embracing, people expect us to talk about something very specific, and that is wrong already. Because when it comes to a more specific level of implementation, naturally there will be differences, but we cannot differ in terms of philosophy. So unifying factor is there, but if we go down, trickle down, so that's why it is normal for us. Yes, you have this opinion about how to do it and so on. So in sociology, we have one scholar talking about this, using this one. So maybe in other occasion, I will deliberate this, because we have also series in the department on this. So part one consists of, I just divide into two. Actually, there are three parts. But I focus on this policy. Anybody knows how many policy statements in the Islamization policy? It's okay, because I always practice in class. Students, you don't have to worry. You just come to class. Don't worry that I'm asking. I'm asking, but I will ask. If you want to volunteer, because you know, by all means. Otherwise, I will not force you. I do not want to add stress on you. Sometimes simply because we always ask and then they don't come to class. Cannot be like that. Don't worry. If you want to, you answer. If you don't want, I will answer. So there is no let them enjoy in the class, not being too, of course, different. Let's respect different. Right. The first one is Islamization is the soul of the university. I think that is. I do not want to go into detail, because when we go into detail, we forget what is the keyword. So that's why I do not want. So you can read on your own. But the fact that it has been declared and it becomes a policy, and already this person talk about the importance of soul, even in the Western context. Excellence without soul has been written, and that's referred to, I think, by Harvard. Harvard known to be a very dean of what written on this. So books like that reflect that despite the what I call it the repetition that they have, at the end of the day they will feel vacuum in terms of what is there, the meaning, the spirit, the soul. So therefore if we do not want this university to grow, without soul, we have to take care of this Islamization. I think we have no choice. Others are looking for that. We are living that. How come? We already have with us. They should benchmark on us. This is not we are on this. I recall, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first Sheikh Kuliah of law was Ahmad Ibrahim. If I'm not mistaken, attributed to him. I did not hear from him directly, but someone from him. At the beginning of the establishment of the university, people asked, let us try to grow our university to become Harvard of the East. Harvard of the East. Yeah? But his very short response is very, very touching. Yeah? Why must we become Harvard of the East? Why don't they become IUM of the West? That's it?
Yes.
So we always feel inferior about what we have. And sometimes even the use of the term Islamization also, we are shy to use it. Huh? So when the rector sent me to US to talk to rector after Sama, said already I did. We went there, I brought 3 professors. Of course, I was not professor, but I was asked by the dean to lead the delegation. We talked to people in state departments about all. So we have to feel big in front of those who know that they need this kind of thing. We need them in other areas, but I think this they need. And we should not feel inferior talking about this. So, Islamization is the soul of Islam. The second one, Islamization is the foundation. The foundation. Don't go to the detail. Just take the keyword. Because at the end of the day, even if you have one whole day, when you go back, sometimes we remember nothing. So first is soul, second is foundation. There are 8 statements. There are 8 statements. 8 policy statements. The third one is the mission of Islamization shall be implemented through all academic and non-academic means. Academic and non-academic means. Welcome, Dr. Rahizla, thank you. So, can you recall the first one is what? I think I want to make use of this. Okay. Soul, foundation. Okay. I want you later, after we have finished, create one word cycle for all this. One is S, second is F. Right? The rest, I leave it to you, whatever. And then you will inform me, maybe we can benefit together. Yeah? And you will be the producer of knowledge. There is producer of the short form of that. So the third one is that the mission of Islamization shall be implemented through all academic and non-academic means, meaning that it should penetrate into all this. Now, the fourth one is that the concept of Islamization in IIUM is comprehensive and holistic in scope and meaning. So therefore, when we operationalize it, so we should not have a tendency of separating certain things from the others. It has been tendency in society and also out there in other schools, universities and so on. Have you ever heard this? Okay, oh, this is about this. Why don't we ask only Islamic studies near business? This one is not mine. No. Yeah? Because there are certain responsibilities which are common responsibilities of Muslims, regardless of whether you are from Islamic studies or others. But the tendency has been that, this one, let us give to IRK. This one, human science. Whereas what or even human science can do it, right? So that's why I think we need to take care of this also. The fifth one is, so what word that you used just now? Comprehensive C, before that? Yeah. You can create your own word also to represent that. But number 5, Islamization of self emphasizes the development and strengthening of iman, or ilm, yaqeen, amal, itself, and personal khulq, through tazkiyah al-nafs, and ta'wid al-akhlaq. So if you are thinking about Islamizing ourselves, this is what it means, Islamizing. So these are the terms. You can go to the policy, it has the meaning there, and you can read Imam Ghazali, Kimya Sa'adah, for example, in order to strengthen about Right, number 6, after self, we go to academic. Islamization of human knowledge. So the word human was added to clarify further, because when you say Islamization of knowledge, maybe there could be a confusion about what type of knowledge. Are we talking about God's knowledge or something? So human knowledge is also added there. It concerns with the construction, development, utilization, and assessment of human knowledge and education based on the authentic worldview and paradigms of Prophet. Consistently throughout my lectures, I have been using the word worldview and epistemology. And epistemology is part of worldview. I only focus on 4 core concepts, and the expanded concept will form 8, and then the 8 can also be further expanded. And it is in that, in the worldview, that we will find what Prof has mentioned just now. There is ontology, axiology, epistemology, and others. So, since the word worldview has become quite prominent nowadays, I think we need to deliberate on this. Now, 7 has something to do with the knowledge and also the issue that might have been raised. So if that is the case, we talk about Islamization of human knowledge. What about the knowledge that has been developed by non-Muslims? So we also have a kind of policy on this, whereby we say that Islamization of human knowledge does not aim at imposing Islam or its values on non-Muslims. It is not the issue of converting non-Muslims. Yeah. Because of the word Islamization. That's why in the policy also, Professor Kamal particularly has also added another term, that is Islamization. Islamization comes from the adjective Islamic, Islamicize, and then Islamization. Because we want to produce something Islamic. So non-Muslim can also produce something Islamic without being Muslim, of course. That is one part. The second part is nor does it disregard their useful knowledge and contribution. Islamization of knowledge also does not mean that we have to ignore and disregard knowledge, or even knowledge now has become also plural, knowledges. I don't want to know that from any. And finally, another part is that the knowledge that is peculiar to Islamic studies and IRK, what we should say about this. The policy says that as far as Islamization in the context of Islamic revealed knowledge and heritage, it refers to the relevantization and contextualization, which aims at legitimate change and reform through continuous exercise of ijtihad based on authoritative Islamic precepts. So we have to relook at the human knowledge, either coming from outside Islamic tradition and Torah, or even in our Torah. In our Torah, the aspect that we may have to give attention, not really the basis and value of Islamic sciences, but the relevance of the cases that have been developed in the past, for example, might not be either suitable now, or there are new things which require consultation of the Torah in order to come up with something explainable about the new issue. That we use the word relevantization, the third mission of this year. Right? So in short, you can also get this one and then you print it and put it on in your nice frame, and then you can always make this one. I think Santary has produced this. So that is part one, policy statements. It covers quite comprehensively on it. Part two is regarding guidelines. So if we are looking for how to define and what is Islamization and so on, the policy contains this also. Yeah? For example, the first one is of course, we call it what? Al-Mabadi al-Ashara, actually the Tahdid, Ta'rif. So the first thing is Ta'rif. Al-Haddu. So one is Ta'rif. Very important. I think all sciences, including human sciences, must refer to what has been used. I like this very much because it really makes it clear to us that as far as in order for knowledge to be a science, an organized body of knowledge, it must have this mabadi, fundamentals. And one of which is definition. You cannot avoid definition. So it is very interesting. If we talk about Islamization of, let's say, modern sciences, maybe this one can also be considered for application in the... Alright, so there are three categories or three types of definition. One is general definition of Islamization. The second is definition of Islamization for academic purposes. The third definition of Islamization for non-academic purposes, including research. So you can refer to respective case, and other parts that are included also guidelines for conceptualization of Islamization for any specific areas. Yeah? You may be inspired by it, and then how to communicate Islamization and implement and operationalize Islamization, and after that monitoring or evaluation. After we develop this policy 2013, we also immediately after that, the following year, also developed what we call Islamization Index to measure the achievements. It took a few years, so we have started at 2014, and we engaged a team, but I think it was completed during the time of I think we made pilot survey, we piloted it during my time, and then later it was enhanced during the time of my successor, Professor Dr. Ahmad. And later I think Dr. Tamim was once right. So then another guideline given is guideline in terms of ways to implement Islamization. So you can go to this. Now, the next slide will be very important for us, particularly if we are thinking about Islamization of modern sciences. There are 21 modes of Islamization of human knowledge. And these 21 or 22 modes of Islamization of knowledge have been classified into 4 levels, beginning with the lowest level until the highest level. The lowest level is accept whatever that is useful knowledge from any source. That is the lowest. If you are new staff and you feel let's say if someone does not feel confident enough, yes, I joined this university is Islamic university, expectation is very high, but I don't have Islamic studies, I don't have vision, I'm afraid to engage with this. If you are afraid to engage from the very beginning, just do business as usual. Yeah? Until you are, as you progress, you will see more and more things. So we want to be inclusive instead of exclusive. Islamization should be inclusive. Everyone with any level of knowledge and awareness about Islamization can do it. So this is what we want to take place. Don't engage in the way that we exclude any of us in the community from Islamization. Anybody can do it. So therefore, guidelines in terms of modes of Islamization or ways of Islamizing human knowledge. Ways of Islamizing human knowledge. This is the second mission of this kuliah, after integration and then Islamization. And Islamization is focused on Islamization of human sciences in our context. But here we're talking about relevantization. Now, low necessity category, medium necessity category, high necessity category, and highest necessity categories. Yeah? If we add together, it becomes 21 or 22, something like this. Yeah? So meaning that we staff with any level of knowledge should be able to have any of these tasks to do, however simple is it. And before I show you the details, because this is the last part, you don't have to worry about the time. I think I made it. Yeah, now I think I want more discussion. But before the discussion, I need to tell you this, because this is the amanah that has been given to brief you. After this, you brief me. Okay, so the logic is like this. The logic I mentioned to you earlier, not all of us are not of the same level of knowledge, awareness, commitment, and so on. That is reality, social reality, social fact, social fact. Because of that, we need to take care of all types of people, types of staff. Maybe in the beginning they simply want to join URA because this is the job that they can get, but it doesn't bother about the mission or whatever. Fine. To come here, work, get salary, and so on. But on our part, we need to do something in order to create awareness until the person is aware of this, and who knows in the future we will be more committed than we are. So that's why we also identify what is the minimum, what is the lowest thing that we can do in terms of tasks. Yeah? So we say in a normal language or what, just do what the other people, the normal other staff do. Yeah? Right? The highest is that you have reached a level where you are able to construct knowledge. Yeah? So that's why I think in our course outline, especially for masters and PhD, I think at least I can talk about sociology, certain courses. The course aims at aiming at training students to be producer of knowledge instead of consumer of knowledge. I think when they are at the PhD level, they should be able to be the producer of knowledge. Yeah? So that is the highest necessity. But of course, in reality, even the staff also at the lower level. So that is in reality sometimes. Right. So let us look at what are those specific tasks that we can do. Number one is what we call low necessity category. What does it mean? It means the efforts which are permissible but of low necessity from the perspective of knowledge construction on the basis of worldview of Islam. Always worldview of Islam become the basis or the point of reference. Yeah, low in terms of this. Therefore, task that we can do is that as we teach or as we read any article about our subject matter, maybe there are theories which are simply universal, and therefore we just accept. And in fact, if it is useful, then just propagate, spread, even if this comes from other tradition. Yeah? Because some of the theories or these things are simply either technical or universal. Anybody, when they engage with that, they will produce the same thing, Muslim or non-Muslim. So there is no question of Islamic statistic or non-Islamic statistic. Statistic is statistic. Yeah? So things like that. So accepting that and then promote that and advance further. Number two, undertaking or doing or involving in normal, ordinary quality research, publication, consultancy, public service or social work in harmony with worldview of principle, ethics and value of Islam. So this reflects the policy, because policy should embrace all those aspects, research, teaching, not only in this is a medium necessity category. I think I don't want to read one by one. I think you can read later in detail, but I simply present to you the logic of having different categories, because we have to address the different levels of knowledge, awareness and commitments of the staff, and we do not want them to feel left out and also inferior when we face Islamization activity and so on. They can do their part. As for the specific task, this is only guidelines. You may have other things also to be included, and some of these things may not even be relevant to your context and specific discipline. You don't know. Yeah? So take it as guideline. Guideline means guideline. This is not prescription. Yeah? So therefore, I will go fast on this, correcting. I think under high necessity category, there are more tasks. I think about 10 tasks. I have been using the word reorientation of sociology throughout. Yeah? And I have my own model. I think by now, enough for me to create a book on this, hopefully, inshallah, by the grace of Allah. And we should aim at becoming or achieving the highest level of achievement. That is, we should be able to produce knowledge or even create sciences. All this while we have been using sciences created in different environments, at least in the human sciences. Yeah? But when is the time that we should think about having the science that come from this place but is used worldwide? Yeah? So in one of the opportunities that I had with the rector, I mentioned about this having school of social science, the Gombak School of Social Science to begin with, and this has also been the desire of the Sekama, but no one took it quite seriously. I think if nobody takes, then I'm saying in front of the dean, I'm willing to take it. Yeah? So that later, when we look at the world in social sciences, at least in sociology, we have Harvard School of Sociology, we have Chicago School of Sociology, we have Frankfurt School of Sociology, all in the West. Why don't we have one? And this one is in the East, and this in the East is in US. And we call it Gombak School of Social Science. If this can be done, that is another milestone, and this will change the mindset of not only Muslims, but other Muslim sociologists and social scientists who all this while have been thinking in certain ways, but we are providing them with certain change in paradigm, thinking paradigm. And I am very, very confident looking at what is taking place in the world today. People are looking at alternative, and we can do. We can provide this alternative, provided we have confidence. We have to do it. If we don't do it, nobody will take it. I think we are in a better position now with all the good reports that people have about us. I think time has come, and at least if we are to close our eyes, I think we can leave behind ilman nafi'an and something that is very great for the ummah and for the world. And if after some years, we do not know how many years, 50 years, 100 years, the mindset of the world people or the scholars have been towards this one, and that is where I think we can see the seeds of the development of the revival of Islamic civilization. I'm confident. So even if it does not achieve, I will not be blamed because I will be no longer here behind the time. But I think we have every reason to talk about this more seriously. I happened to bump with rector a second time after that. He said, "So we are waiting for you. Please make it happen." He wants to launch, I think, during this 40 years anniversary. But I'm deliberating the paper now. I will share with the dean, and let's see whether this can how to go about. I think the idea is good, but how to go about this, we have to take care of that. So I think to summarize, we have a takeaway on this. 2.5 minutes. I hope you will keep your mind. Or you cannot hear this? Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. This is the video, the launching of this policy, if I'm not mistaken, by the Prime Minister, Dr. Najib, when he came here to officiate the what do you call this? The opening of the first World Congress on this one. So maybe we can have that, and if you want a copy, you can also visit Century's website. This is to summarize all what I have mentioned. Okay, there is the takeaways, and you have to take away from other sources. That is the essentials. So I think yes, a copy of ILM policy, Islamization policy, and the video you can get from this. Now the last question, I just put it as a question because in presenting it based on what I know. But now we have the new developments with SAF and so on. So the question is how we can link what we have already developed within the framework that we have. I think lots of things have to be thought and looked into it, and I think Brother Dr. Zainal is here, I think, from Sejahtera. So maybe this can also be collaborated or accommodated or somehow. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof, for such a fruitful discussion, explanation. I must have learned a lot. So I think, yeah, I open the floor. If you have any question, insights, anything that you want to share with us, you are most welcome. Alright, either you can come here or there's another mic there.
Yes. Okay, Doctor. Thank you so much for the presentations. Really appreciate it. For the first time to get to hear the full versions of it. Full versions of the whole framework, which give exciting thoughts to me, having coming from as a student, yes, but then when you come as management, you see from a bit different perspective how to put this together. I've got several questions, not questions, I've got several things that I'd like to hear from your side, Doctor. But the first one, I thought, as a full, we had the discussions in UKM, which Prof. Osman Bakar was chairing it. This was looking at the role of social science in nation building. And I come from a background of sustainability whereby it's a convergence of science and social science. And the world is going towards that direction. It's not anymore disciplinary based perspective. And we see that one of the main pillars is about integrations of knowledge and the thing that has been shared there. But when doctors say that if we can set up a social science school, there is something that will be great. But I'm trying to understand behind it when we are talking about promoting of integrations of knowledge, no longer based on divisions between science and social science. And we see a different model of how ideas of integrating it. USIM would have a different kind of integration of knowledge. And here ARK is the one model. And maybe UNISA would have a different model. And this model I refer to like something which is direct in a way that if you look at USIM's model of integration of knowledge would be like, they put it directly, usul fiqh and leaderships. Fiqh and leadership kind of. So ours, we are still like real knowledge, and we got human science. So we got Department of Communications. So this is a model that is towards an attempt of putting this together. But when we talk about integration, what is that model? And then when Dr. said about establishing that social science, how do you reflect this based on what is happening now? So I hope my thoughts is a bit clear to be reflected.
Okay, I think I better just respond immediately because being a man of 63 years, I tend to forget very fast. So, right, thank you, Dr. Zainal. I appreciate that, very important observation as well as sharing. as I said, I'm presenting policy, okay, and also governance. How to do it at the lower level, that is open for ijtihad or ijtihadat, and either jama'ai or fardi. Maybe when we teach our subject, it is ijtihad fardi to a certain extent, and the standard one is yes, there will be no end to the debate over how to have a model for integration. As far as but as long as we are unified by certain main principles, and these are the principles that we have to agree. I believe either you are in UKM or USIM or here, the 5 principles or the principles that particularly have been mentioned by Al-Faruqi, they are all general, universal Islamic principles which no one sound Muslim will reject. Except that when we put this against the Western secular thinking. So that will make it at the highest level of differentiation between Islamic-oriented worldview and non-Islamic oriented worldview. That is what we are going to highlight, number 1. Second level of agreement could be in terms of either, because ultimately if you look at the literature, this is Islamization simply Tawhidization. Making things either grounded in Tawhid or close to Tawhid or more Tawhidic. I think that is the basic idea, because we have God, Allah, and everything else will have to be done in order to serve Him. Alright, but this is not what is there in the mindset and thinking and school of thought over there. Remember, when I say school of thought, it is not a physical school of thought. It is not a physical school of thought where we need more staff and so on. Not even without the staff. Yeah? We may need 1 or 2 persons to help us organizing things. And in fact, this is also not like developing a new school of thought in addition to the existing schools of thought within Islam. No, not at all. We are trying to revive or trying to benefit from the Torah in order to reformulate in such a way as a strategy for making people understand that once upon the time, people, Muslims, with certain type of thinking, equipped with worldview, they managed and were able to create civilization for the world. Right? But why now Muslims are not able to do so? So the lost property of Muslims has been in the Torah, then we have to revive this back. And the challenge is we are facing another giant worldview narrative in the world, that is secular worldview. So when we talk about school of thought, these are the aspects that we need to put as the unifying thing. We have to agree at the highest level first, and then the second level, third level, fourth level can be negotiated. Up to a certain level, maybe let's say the third level or fourth level, maybe this IIM model, which also attempt to materialize the spirit of Tawhid in education and curriculum and so on, but IIM model compared to Muslim model. But Muslim also talk about Tawhidization. Right? So there is no question. We are comparing not within ourselves. We are comparing at the first level with non-Islamic worldview. So this should become the root, the foundation, the basis for our school of thought. And deliberating this Tawhid, let's say, have 5 principles, let's say, that become agreeable to all, will be great. Then we go to another level where we can further operationalize it. So the question of unity of knowledge is seen in this direction. Yes, you may have, let's say, okay, what you call this, Islamic studies and Tawheed and leadership, da'wah, and that's fine. That's fine to me. In fact, in IUM, we have a shifting way of doing. Previously, it was CFK, Center for Islamization of Knowledge. Professor Kamal was against the establishment of Islamic Studies Kuliah, because when we have Islamic Studies Kuliah, we are what I call is we are strengthening the secular way of doing things, where you have law, you have economic, you have human science, you have Islamic studies. Already there, I mean, structurally, you can see it manifested in it. That's why some of the earlier students, they were quite critical on this, the movement from CFK to IRK. Yeah? And some, until now, they said that was the best model. So the model, 1984, 1989, was that model, CFK, where all Islamic studies, all fundamental Islamic knowledge will have to be gained, acquired by students of other disciplines, law, economics, medicine, engineering, right? So that by this way, they will graduate as a doctor, a lawyer, well equipped with Islamic knowledge, values, and also mindset, worldview. That is already the product. The integration takes place at the level of product. But when we offer maybe separately, but the outcome, the attribute, the output, that is what, because we cannot imagine something that has no separation at all. In fact, in Islamic tradition also, there have been also terminologies reflecting this. We talk about ulum al-aqliyah and ulum sharia, for example, or naqliyah. So the coinage of this term are not meant to be separating, but for the ease of dealing with the reality that we have. So you can have whatever models as long as you subscribe to the standard principles that are common to all. So that's why I reserve myself to, let's say, people ask, what do you think about doing this in this way, or this university has this kind of programs, right? So the model, the specific operational model may be different, even within IAM as well. But I think the spirit is the same, the principle is the same, the foundation is the same, right? Of course, as we develop new model, there should be a process of negotiation, discussion, and so on. Earlier, I think it was made compulsory, I think, for human science students to take double degree, if I'm not mistaken, right? But later, because of circumstances and ministry, but we keep that in mind and then incorporate it in certain way that it does not detach from this. Student still have to take, human science students still have to take what you call this. But remember, but unfortunately, we don't have Professor Kamal anymore now to consult and to ask him about it. But I believe the process of negotiation took place between him and also the former rector when this was proposed. Yeah? To the extent that we have what we have today. It could be that the original idea was quite reflective of certain secular way. We do not know, because Professor Kamal was very firm on this, that he doesn't want this to be reflective of secular philosophy of education. But with this arrangement of this model, I don't see any big problem of considering what we have today as getting also another model for integration of knowledge, where our human science students will have to take what I call it, RK, and RK students will have to take human science. When they graduate, already they are united because they have been exposed to worldview of Islam, and in terms of ethics and amalan, they have already fiqh and usul fiqh and ethics in Islam, all these things. So I think if we want to talk about the differences of models and implementations to and we refer this as the what you call this, the disunity among us at that level. But the way I see it, even if they have different models, eventually or ultimately, if you ask them, they are doing this thing in order to achieve the same goal, guided by the same principles. Yeah? Wallahu a'lam, I mean that is my way of looking at things. Yes. I hope it answers your, I don't know.
Yeah.
Of course there are other issues at the level of implementation. Yes.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa
Mhm.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Khalzan. This is very wonderful and insightful. Thank you for the knowledge that you have shared with us. I do agree with you. The one important element that is making us to be behind it is the sense of inferiority. So you spell this out very clear. So unless if we go out from this kind of isolation that we have put ourselves, being inferior towards what others are giving to us, so perhaps we'll be at this level, that we don't see any kind of progress. Another important thing that you mentioned here, and I think the doctor just Zainal mentioned about the center. So now when I look at previously you mentioned this, the Islamization, how it was done, especially now fully we don't have a problem to that extent, but now certain courses that were meant to link these two, I mean the revealed knowledge and human sciences, have been taken out. And you look at the university level, so I don't know how you look at the future of the centers. What is the role of the center to manage, to monitor, to evaluate the process of Islamization? By looking at, you said this is the foundation, and we don't see the foundation to be implemented. When I look at the university required courses now, we don't have courses that are doing Islamization in the university level. I remember when I had the discussion with Prof. Rahman, at the beginning there were 13 courses, then they came down to 9 courses, then to 7 courses, then to 3 courses. Now we don't have even, these 3 courses are not at the university level. So if you want to have this Islamization, like I mentioned, the foundation of this university, so that should be, if I say, if you go up to 7 courses to be at the university level, that would be what we can do. When you ask students from engineering, for example, or from other, maybe as I mentioned before in our Korea, we don't have that problem, because now in the current curriculum, we are assuring us, we mentioned that this would be in every department. But the thing is, the question is here, how is monitored this kind of application when I look at other Koreas? Do we have any kind of process that is monitoring under the centers? And when, as I mentioned, I give an example. When I look at the other Koreas, even dealing with lectures, when I teach this diploma in centers, I mean, of course, with the science, many of the lecturers are not aware of what is happening. They are Muslim, but they don't know how to do Islamization themselves, how to link, how to integrate. And even when I ask them about how do you deal with the students, so the students, they don't have this, what is meant to be fundamental. When I look at courses like Islamic worldview, very fundamental, ethics and fiqh for very fundamental. We had knowledge, then we had creative thinking, and other course, and family and parenting that was meant before a major course, now it has been under curriculum 0.5 credit and doesn't have any value. Of course, I'm teaching that course. We try to, those who are very selective, we try to do our tasks, but this is, my concern here is probably like, as you mentioned, so what is the future, of these centers? What is the role, how to manage, because frankly speaking, we don't see this down to the ground. The application, as you mentioned, one of the main policies, it is related to implication of this. So how to monitor, because when Prof. Tamim was having, Prof. Ahmad was saying, I don't know whether they just put them to the position, they tie the hands not to go on. That is another thing, So if you have the position, you have the centers, but you have to give them authority in order to implement. If we don't have this authority, then it is like we are talking, just like you mentioned, without any fruit. But Alhamdulillah, I'm happy that we have a center. That is very important. But we are very concerned about the application of it. So, and I'm very thankful that we have people like you around us still, because when Prof. Ahmad Rahimahullah left us, so that is not the end. So we are his students, so we have to go on with this. So Barakallah Fiqh, this is my concern. So may Allah make it easy, inshallah. May Allah make it easy.
So, is comment or
Yeah, I just want to know how this will go on. That was a comment. When you had the sentence, the implementation, when you talk about the Islamization process related to other kulliyas. Is that suitable if sentence, for example, like we have general studies, that is FITS now, if sentence will monitor in line with FITS to make sure that this is applied at the university level. Because now we have other courses, frankly speaking, that in the university level, they are not related to what we have, the mission, the vision. So you are aware, I don't mention this course, but these are not related at all to what you have just shared with us. Right? So frankly speaking, this is the reality.
Yeah, we have two sides. One is ideal, one is reality. That has always been as far as the ideal, likewise also, pray should be with assured. But reality we don't know. So once we say Allah Akbar and shopping malls come, so that is the reality. So okay, we don't have to. I think the I know if we, of course, we think about it seriously, but put it this way. Just to console ourselves. Number one, Allah will not ask whether we are successful or not in terms of achieving the certain measurement that we have. But Allah asks, what have you done in order to make people closer to Islam? So I think we have in place constitution, policy, program. That is as best as we can do. Very colorful of myself. Okay, so don't worry if we are not able to achieve it. Number one. Number two, like many other policies also, and also vision or whatever, it is bound to be put in the context, and sometimes contexts are not quite favorable to the growth as we expected. Many vision have fall down because of COVID. For example, Vision 2020 once I call it propagated by Dr. Mahathir. I think I don't have answer whether it has been achieved or not achieved. So meaning that we should continue to have a plan and also effort, and then we try our best based on whatever that we can think of. As for the achievement, it may be subject to, of course, circumstances and other factors, as well as, of course, ultimately, if Allah wants it happens. If Allah doesn't want it to happen, then it may not happen. Yeah? So we can only plan. Now, as for the reality on the ground, the reality on the ground, as I said to you, even the shift of model from CFK model to KRSK model has invited many debates also over this, and we will not end that. Yeah? But I think although eventually yes, the kuliah has been established, and I think it is not that bad, because if you view from another perspective, yes, sciences and knowledge, they are of different branches. And it has been frequently said in the literature that the area that requires most focus for Islamization is social sciences, not hard sciences. Right? We are dealing with norms, we are dealing with humans, we are dealing with thinking. So it is only logical for us in human science to place extra effort and come up with something that we can do that task in our area, social sciences. Natural sciences like medicine, engineering, and so on, they have less in terms of Islamization. Perhaps Islamization of Islamizers, Islamization of the Islamizer plays more, or even in the area of knowledge of. That's why I think in engineering they talk about engineering and ethics in engineering. Ethics in engineering, because it is the ethical part that is most important for engineers. Yeah? In medicine, they have medical practices, Islamic input in medical practices. So they have different names to address different. However, if we take in total, scattered effort here and there, either we can see it directly integrated or not integrated, I believe the individual efforts taken by any conscious Muslim will eventually be what we want to do. And we also must remember, however we feel not satisfied when we do things, we fear that the product will not be that and that. But from what I can gather when we meet our alumni, however bad they performed earlier, and they sometimes did not know even Islamization when they have graduated, they work, they have family, and then they join with us. That is the time when you know the values that they have taken for now they are going to recover. So don't think that if we fail in the immediate production or immediate output of our graduate, that will be, because as long as for the Murabi, for the teacher, for the staff, that's why when I went to Kuantan, we did roadshow to explain this to all campuses in PJ, so with Professor Kamala, and also in Kuantan. Professor Kamala made his presentation, I thinking about their subjects or their orientation, their field and so on. I did not talk like this. I said to them, I think what we need to do is just do business as usual. I start with that. Do business as usual as natural scientists. But we act. As a Muslim, we act. Number one, we act intention, niyyah. We act niyyah. Innamal a'malu binniyah. So whether we will teach or we will mark assignment or engage with student activities, we start with niyyah. That alone gives spiritual value. Maybe all this while we don't really take it very seriously, but we know hadith mentioned that. So that is number one. Number two, excel in your own area, research. If you are engineering, do research, produce something to the extent that you may be able to come up with products which will be at par with those who have, with that is produced by others. So in space engineering, for example, all this will happen. So excel. Excelling in our own area with intention and also certain goals, itself become Islamization. You don't have to use the word Islamization, but you are doing it Islamization because your soul is Islamite, your thinking is Islamite, your commitment is Islamite. You are doing the same thing that others are doing. Non-Muslims are doing the same thing, conducting research with the same subject as study. So that's number three. So niyyah, number one. Number two, excel in your own area, either research or teaching and so on. Number three, don't forget to perform Islamic obligations, prayer and so on. You cannot talk about Islamization as a Muslim when you yourself ignore or neglect prayer. Prayer, this five, right? And then number four, since you are in this university, professionally speaking, even if you work in anywhere like I mentioned earlier, you have to be bound by the philosophy. You may not like it in the beginning because you join, because you want job, you want salary, it's fine. But the fact is that professionally speaking, you have to also do something that is in line with the philosophy of the university. So therefore, the next one is that you have to gradually learn and learn more about how to do it. You can begin with accepting what you learn and teach, and then you go up to the second category or third category, to the extent that when you have been here for 10 years or 15 years, who knows, you will be the producer of knowledge, constructor of new science in your particular field. And then, all the time. So these are 4 or 5 or 6 things, simple things. Don't make them away. Yassiru wa la tu'assiru wa bashiru wa la tunaffiru. Make it easy, don't make it difficult. Make them happy, don't make them run away. So when I say to them, that just do business as usual. Meaning that they don't have to change, to do drastic change, simply because they are here in this university. Yeah? Whereas we need to be inclusive, we need to persuade them to come. Even without doing anything, just focus on yourself for now. I believe if we are sincere, I mean the administrator, the university are sincere, we want to make them easy so that with the mercy of Allah, hopefully Allah will put nur in their heart sooner or later, because of our sincerity to help people. Don't expect tangible result there and then, even after student graduate. But I have seen also those who are, students who are very, you use your own word, but when they later grow up and come back, they are more committed than us. So, why it become like this? Because they have been exposed to environment. Environment is that maybe time has not come yet for them to reach a certain age of maturity to appreciate this. And this happens to everyone. When I was in the University of Malaya, I did not understand much the book of Islam and Secularism by Said Muhammad Nabil al-Abbas. And also Farouqi's Tawheed, its implication for thought and life. I don't understand because they are philosophers, they are very high. And now I regard that as to me, very important, because only now we can see that this is almost like a magnum opus. Right. So, just as a Murabbi, I think we have to maybe at that time you cannot see sophisticated ideas, but allow them to grow, and inshallah Allah will help us. We believe if we help others, Allah will help us. Allah. Yes, brother.
Just want to ask. Arafat Karim.
You can sit down. Sit down. Yeah.
Directly in Japan. In terms of this terminologies, Islamization of knowledge, Islamization of human knowledge, Islamicization, relevantization, contextualization. Sometimes our students, we are also personally, we are debating why this university is using continuously these different terms and terminologies in terms of Islamization of knowledge. Sometimes we are using Islamization of human knowledge. That means, are we going to compromise Islamization of knowledge? Why we are using Islamicization of knowledge? Are we going to compromise Islamization of human knowledge? Like that is debatable topic in terms of this field. That's why I would like to ask you, can you clarify this is the contradiction among that, or still it is a improvement or the path of improvement? So.
Okay, thank you, Brother Arafat. I think I now recall you were once the moderator of one things are still okay. Okay, so if that is the conclusion, on your part, what do you want to use that is not confused? For you. For you, let's say this word Islamization of human knowledge, Islamization, and so on, that might have confused. What is a word that for you are not confused?
In my perspective, in my country, in Sri Lanka, we cannot use that word Islamization because the police will be different way. Islam, they are going to Islamize this country. But I am using this way. Islamization, I prefer using Islamization knowledge here.
I think that is the answer.
Okay.
I think that is the answer. I think we have to look at the context. This is contextualization. Yeah, if you are in Bangladesh, even the word is prohibited. Why must we use that?
Yes.
We have to go, but we have to be based on the essence, on the spirit, on the principle. As I said earlier, actually, even if this word is not, it doesn't have to be used. If what you are using is really Islamization in essence, you don't have to use. And sometimes it is better not to use. Better not to use. Okay? So the use of the term is only our choice, whether we want to use or to use. But the confusion may arise because of the different terms. I said to my students when I taught them this, we are talking about modern sociology. Okay, what are the other terms for modern sociology? And then this is contemporary sociology, and then present day sociology, today's sociology, Western sociology, secular sociology. You see many terms. Okay, what do you mean by secular sociology? I mean this. You are in this. Then we are talking about the same thing. Why bother about the term? Right? So, if we are talking about the same thing with slightly different approach and orientation and so on, and the essence is the same, why must we create a kind of unnecessary confusion? You don't have to even debate over that. Like what people debate over who coined first Islamization of knowledge idea. Is it said Naqib al-Atas or al-Faruqi? I say whoever you take it because we benefit from that. What is good from that? But if you want to continue, since you are from Department of History, for example, we want to trace the history, you can do it academically. But as a practitioner, that does not material much. Yeah?
But carefully, the policies of Islamization knowledge included each terms.
Yeah, like Islamization, if you go to the first part, that is more of clarification and also material. Already, I think if you read all, there is no confusion because when the word Islamization is included, it has a certain reason. The reason is that, like you mentioned, we do not want people to have an impression that this process, this idea is meant for conversion, making people Islamic or Islamized, but making knowledge Islamized. Not that is right. What we mean is making knowledge Islamic. But if the word Islamization is used in the sense of Islamization, then why when we know that we use different terms but we mean the same thing, why? That's why if you look at the policy, it is stroke slash. It is not either or. This is not either or. You can use Islamization of knowledge or Islamization of human knowledge. In fact, Said Muhammad Naqib al-Atas talking about this, he has used other terms, de-westernization and de-secularization, which means Islamization. So it is a matter of emphasis, focus, and what aspect that he sees, right? So taking out the secular element from the body of knowledge, that is the main concern. So, yes.
because most of my contemporaries, practically those who are in their late 40s and early 50s, we are IUM veterans, practically. So we went through the process. We went through the process in the sense that as a student, we saw how the lecturers and also the management were discussing, arguing about Islamization, and also about, and then later on is Islamization. So it is always being carried as it is on the conceptual level, that when is it that we are going to do it in terms of research. It's always the issue. Then when you become part of the community, IUM community, we did not realize that whatever that you have gone through as a student, it was part of you. So this Islamization is like a walking thing, you know, because you are doing it. So maybe on the teaching part, it's part of us. We are teaching our students with all the good things about the morality, the ethics and whatnot. Even people in uniform body come and try to get our students to work with their organization, because you are thinking that since it is IUM, you are carrying this banner that there will be someone who is honest. So that is our contribution that we did not see, or we could not see. So, and when we've met our students on the street, you know, because I've been there for 20 over years teaching them, and then they still want to come back to the university. So that means there is something that the university is doing, that there is a pool for the students to come back. And then I think the issue, it has already passed the issue of conceptualizing what is Islamization and what not. But we have come to see it in a sense that we can implement it. Back then we were just thinking about research. We have never thought about, oh okay, this is part of you in your teaching. This is part of you in terms of how you mix and interact with other people. So actually it's part of us. On the research part, Ibn Khaldun did not talk about Islamization. He did not talk about all these things before the social sciences emerged, 300 years ago. It was even earlier than that. Part of his research, he was talking about, oh, okay, the Bedouins, this is what the Bedouins do. But he did not use just simply, conjecture, but he's using observation, he's using all the scientific methods. He did not even have to name it. And the critic would say that he is not scientific, because he's talking about religion, how religion influences your life. But the reality part, they are not scientific, because it's not about us, it's about the people that we study. If religion is part of them, if you did not reveal that religion has an influence in their life, then you are not scientific. Because we are revealing what is the reality of the people out there. It's not just on this is the reality. So religion is part of us, especially when we talk about the Muslim community. There are so many concepts that you can use in order to show that it is Islamization, but not directly saying that it is Islamization. For example, for the Muslims, we talk about sadaqah. Sadaqah is very important. Why do you want to use the word charity? When sadaqah has a deeper meaning from the Islamic point of view, or from even, let's say, if you talk about Malaysia, the Malaysianized version also have a different meaning. More connected to the Arabic version. What more if you are talking about studying the Middle Eastern people? The more so the deeper meaning is there. Why not we bring it? This is at least in terms of concepts in our research. Wakaf. Nobody can understand wakaf if you do not bring it forward. So there are so many beautiful elements in Islam that can be brought forward without even mentioning that we are doing Islamization and the convincing part. Okay? And on the part of the lecturers, I was thinking, maybe because we are the generation who are coming from the university, so we have gone through the training. But we have so many young lecturers who are not part of us, who do not even realize that this has to be done, and they have to be convinced. The problem is, if you do not convince the lecturers, how the lecturers are going to convince the students? This is not part of you. So like us, it's kind of like become a natural thing to talk about it. If you want to go to other universities, the minute you talk about Islam, they will call you to see the dean. So this is is the best place for you to do it. With condition, you are convinced that you are supposed to read and this is part of you. It doesn't matter whatever field it is, engineering, medicine and whatnot. Even in medicine, people start to look at the spirituality part of it. Even in pure science, people are thinking about, oh, okay, there is other things than just the empiricism. More than that. You see? So, oh no, hold on. That is just my 2 cents.
I think I agree. In fact, we have been saying this every day, 17 times when we look. We are dealing with matters in life. We have 2 things on it, either life or death. And we declare in the Salati, wa mahya. Wa mahya include everything. And then wa mamati, including dealing with Lillahi Rabbil Alamin. So the entire life is for Allah. So this is what we are doing. Dr. Abdul Hamid Abu Sulaiman once mentioned when I accompanied him when he came here after being director. He was giving talk to the postgraduate students in engineering. He said that, of course, earlier he mentioned about Islamization as a moving target. You don't really have one specific thing. That is number 1, number 2. Islamization of knowledge is only a process, also a strategy for achieving certain ideal situation where people all thinking about everything in the religious way, broadest religious way. Everything become religious. If that time has come, we have to throw away the word Islamization. Meaning what? Meaning Islamization is not the goal. It is a means. It is a strategy. So if you don't need to, you just didn't have to use. So I think and then when we do things, let's say excelling in our own area, time will come when people appreciate this and compare. Ibn Khaldun, for example, like you mentioned. Now we can compare already with the modern sociological, scientific, empirical way of doing it. We have done it earlier. And in our Torah, in our heritage, a lot. And I think in our department, I'm fortunate to have a PhD student who is good in Arabic and in English and also in Torah. And we have asked him to dig into the Torah. So study the Kitab Al-Milal wa Nihaya, Shahristani. Dig into it, extract the ideas of sociology of religion from our. So this is one thing how we can contribute, because it has not been translated in English, but it has been there. I'm not sure, I'm not aware about it. In French, yes. So we cannot do it as a person because we are incapacitated in many ways. But if our student has that capacity, ask them to do it, and then we also can guide them in terms of technicalities, how to make people know that Muslims also contributed in a very scientific way, understanding sociology of religion better than Weber and others. So I think, yes, excelling in research is very much necessary. Okay, I think any last question about 11:15? If there is no question, I would like to take this opportunity once again to thank the Kuya for inviting me, particularly the dean and the deputy dean. And also I would like to apologize if there are things which are not up to expectation, number 1, if there are shortcomings, and particularly if there are mistakes in my understanding, in my views and so on. Of course, we hope that we will learn more, and whatever is good comes from Allah, and what is deficient and not good comes from my own weaknesses. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Prof. Again, and thank you for all of you who attended this program. inshallah, hopefully whatever takeaways that we have got today, we can continue to bring it in our intellectual activities afterwards, inshallah. With that, I end this session with